Hey everybody, this thanks for coming by. And Dave, I saw your comment in there. Thank you for stopping in. Sorry I missed your stream yesterday. Um, the I just was sitting around and trying to figure out. I wanted to add some material to the site or to the channel, and I thought that I don't need to eat lunch every day of the week. So if I take some time on a Thursday afternoon, right around my lunchtime, to do some updates on things I'm reading or events or stuff I haven't planned up for the channel, I can do that now, and folks can surf in and hang out, and that'll be good. And this is totally unscripted, so I'm going to be going blah, 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 a whole lot. But I got some cool things that are going on, and I wanted to share them all with you. So thank you, everybody. King Eric, the greatest of all, is always here. I love it when you stop in, Eric. Or I should say, Your Majesty. I don't know how to address you, Eric. But just some fun times to do some updates on things that I have going on. I'm doing a lot of reading right now. You just saw that I put up my Numenera review earlier this week. I actually filmed that last Friday and edited it on Monday. Why does editing have that did it sound? Did that on Monday and put that out. That's been a lot of fun to watch people interact with that. Yesterday, I decided that I wanted to have a little bit more space for engagement to talk about various games because I'd done a lot of reviews that were not strictly OSR games. And one of my primary places to talk about gaming in general is on Facebook. I know it's for old people hang out now, but there's an OSR group on there that is just wonderfully brilliant. There's a lot of folks who are long time connected to the industry, do some great stuff. It's been a joy for me to be part of it and to learn a lot about of things that I hadn't learned. And when I'm have inquiries about games, that's usually where I would go, and people give me really good advice. But I didn't have a space where I could talk about general games. And these games that I reviewed that were not OSR, I didn't want to share my reviews to the OSR group because that's off topic. I don't like to spam people with stuff just because I think it's interesting. I want to stay on discussion. So I started a Facebook group for DM Tales. It is a private group. I'll put the link for the invite down below in the description when I get done with this. I forgot to put it in advance. And that's where I can put up my discussions with like the creators of Blood and Doom, which was a live stream I did a couple weeks ago, or my review of Numenera or the Cipher System or Open Legends. These are things that don't fit in the OSR realm. But they are different games, and I just want to have a space where people can talk about stuff like this. And currently on the channel, folks are having a great discussion about buying bulk dice. So it's going to be free flowing. I do have a code of conduct for folks who want to join the space that you have to agree to. Basically, it all sums up to don't be a dick. And if you show me that you are one, I will believe you, but I'll give you one chance to prove yourself wrong. So that's really the summary of everything at the end. And excuse me, that's a crass way of putting it, but that's kind of the bottom line discussion in gaming at this point. This is what it levels out at. And so I'm having some fun doing that and meeting some folks from the OSR group who have come over and some other folks who have joined in. It's been a lot of fun to chat with them just over the one day, and I hope that continues. And I am reading a lot of books. I had planned on buying into Fantasy Age and Savage Worlds around February, which is when my birthday was, and I had some gift cards to spend, and I thought it would be nice to pick up some games that I had been interested in, but didn't really have time to pick up yet. And then WotC lost its mind and decided that they were going to try to take over the entirety of the role-playing space. And lo and behold, all these other games sold out. So Savage Worlds was gone. I couldn't find that anywhere for a time. They were in between printings. I had briefly thought about maybe picking up Pathfinder, but it's a style of game that's not really my favorite, so I might not ever touch that. I don't know yet. If someone wants to gift it to me, I'll certainly read it. That's not a hint. And then I thought about getting Fantasy Age because people really had talked about that a lot in that OSR group. And I wanted to pick that up, but they were in between editions. They were about to come out with second edition. I figured I'd wait. So I finally got scrounged some cash together and picked up a pre-order of Fantasy Age second edition. I am reading that in the PDF form. The print books are not being distributed yet. I can't wait to get my hands on it. And that's an interesting game. If you've never played Fantasy Age, it's actually a 3D6 system. One of my friends in my Monday group has pointed out that that makes the math a lot more predictable. It's actually a true bell curve almost. And so it's an interesting take on the fantasy genre. I'm interested to see how I'm going to react to the game when I get the physical book in my hands. The PDF doesn't read all that well because the layout is very heavy. It's very color heavy. Uh, Musings, trying to. No, I'm not muscling into into you. I've been musing forever, Mage's musings, so that's it. But it's very color heavy. There's a lot of very hard backdrops or backgrounds between the different segments of text in Fantasy Age. It's a little difficult to read on a screen. I have, however, picked up The Expanse, which is the same system, same company by Green Ronin. And I read that in person, just flipped it through because I picked it up for a friend of mine for his birthday, and it seemed a lot more readable. So I'm thinking this might just be a book that I need to read in print and just put the PDF for when I copy stuff or show things for you for a review. That's one of the things. The other thing that I am looking at is Savage Worlds, as I put up, and I just picked this up a couple weeks ago, maybe a week ago. And this is interesting. So you see how thick the book is, right? And you think to yourself, or at least I thought to myself, well, this has got to be a nice, quick pickup for a rules light game. No. This Savage Worlds is phenomenally crunchy. It's not overbearingly so, but it's a lot more than what I was expecting. So my expectations have kind of been dashed. And so I'm having an interesting time trying to digest this, to navigate all the fiddly bits to really understand the game and play it. And I'm interested in doing it. One of the folks that is at my Castles and Crusades table loves running this system. In fact, he's running it at an event I'm going to be talking about in a little bit. And so what I want to do is sit down and have him run a session or two for me, or with a group, where I get to be a player of this game and kind of see how all the fiddly bits work out. The thing that he loves about it is that there are an incredible amount of settings for it, because this is a system agnostic or genre agnostic system. And so he loves picking up all the different settings and tweaking them to fit the play level of the people at his table. So I'm looking forward to playing it. I am, better part of 2/3 of the way through the book. I'll be done with it pretty soon. And it is a good game. It's just, it blew my expectations. I was expecting it to be much more rules light than it actually is. It's a very crunchy game. Let me catch up on my comments. Are you into fantasy board games? I have never played Gloomhaven. I would be into it. When I was growing up, my favorite game of all time was Dark Tower. And I'm kicking myself that I didn't have money to buy the Kickstarter for the Dark Tower Redone or the Dark Tower Reborn or whatever it was. That was one of the funnest games I've ever played, because you got to haggle with the merchants and then they could close on you. That was a lot of fun. I used to play that with one of my friends for hours and hours and hours, but I haven't played too many fantasy board games. Gloomhaven is one that I probably should play, so that's something that I should get into. And Dave, you love Savage Worlds. I'd love to hear why sometime. It's simpler than it sounds. It does. I think Savage Worlds is simpler than it sounds, but there are so many. It's almost like there's so many Lego pieces that you can throw into different places as you go through encounters or try to navigate social encounters, that I'm having difficulty remembering which bits go where. And then the language is a little bit different for Savage Worlds. So if folks aren't familiar with it, they use a lot of card language in Savage Worlds. So you don't crit, you roll an ace. The ace can explode once, which is kind of nice. And your initiative is done by rolling and playing cards. And this has to do with the original setting that Savage Worlds was designed for. It's all carryover from that. And I think somehow I'm having trouble digesting the language. I'm going to have to read this probably about twice before I could figure out if I could run it. I do want to be in a game as a PC sometime before that. That's just one of those things. I think it's a really interesting system. I think there's a lot of flexibility to it. I'm certainly glad that I have it. And I do like the layout. I don't want to blow what I'm going to do for review a little bit. There's a little bit of skeuomorphism in here that it feels a little bit 2004-ish, with fake paper things. But in general, the layout's very pretty in Savage Worlds PDF and on in the print. So I'm very appreciative of that. Oh yeah, Dave, I would love it. If you want to run a sample at some time, I would love that at some point. We could do that maybe on your channel at some point. It would be a lot of fun. So that's kind of what I'm reading right now. And then I have upcoming, which I talked about in my Numenera review. I need to read Destiny. This adds some extra options to Numenera. There's a couple other character types that you can play. I think this does more domain level play. I haven't even looked at it yet, and I literally there's a poster in the back that I have not opened yet. Don't worry about the cracking. That's part of the binding process that Monty Cook Games uses. It's supposed to do that. It's not a bug. It's a feature. Which is kind of fun. And we got 6 people viewing. So thank you so much for tuning in as I muse for stuff. Interesting thing, as I came out here to come over to my office and set up for the stream, I saw that there was a manila envelope that had come in the mail for me, which was from Scabbard because he sent me, let me see if I can get that on there to where you can actually read it. Their die, this is like really cool for solo play, but you could even do it for group play, where you ask a question and you roll the die and it gives you what the result is that you have to work with. There we go. Yes, and this is if you get so many gold coins in Scabbard, you get one of these. I was not expecting this to actually show up. So, Stolf, thank you so much. I was really kind of happy with that. They've gone from a D20 that was Scabbard themed to this thing. And I actually, you know what? I have a D20 somewhere around. Someone had sent me one that's got 20 options on it, which is really kind of fun. Epic Solo. Thank you, Wes. Thanks, man. It's really a lot of fun to be here with all of you. Let's talk about other things that I have coming up. On Monday, excuse me as I reach, I'm in between reviews right now. I'm still reading, trying to digest Savage Worlds for review. I'm still trying to digest Fantasy Age for review. I probably won't get to that till the print book comes out. Numenera Destiny, you saw how thick that book is. It's going to take a while for me to get through it. But I did want to show off Forbidden Lands. I had gotten this at PAX Unplugged back in December. I want to thank Victory Condition Games. He was working at the Free League booth there, and I wanted a particular package in order to pick up Forbidden Lands, which had the box set, the PDF, and the VTT format so that I could actually run the game in my VTT at the time if I wanted to run this online for Foundry. And he really helped me out because the folks that were there, they didn't know how to do it, and he looked it up and worked on it. So thank you so much to Victory Condition Games. Go look at his channel. He does some really cool stuff. And so he brought this out. And so I'm going to be doing a look through of what's in this box next Monday, probably about 12 o'clock because Monday's my day off. And so I'm going to look through this. I have read this. I just haven't had a chance to fit it in my review schedule yet. Free League games are really interesting because it gets dark really quick. And the one thing about the other Free League game that I've reviewed on this channel was for Mutant Year Zero, which is a really cool game, but I just felt that trying to play it would be so stressful because like every other moment you can die. And I like OSR games where that's a possibility, and this was like, ow. A couple of my friends watched the review who were at one of my tables, and they're like, oh yeah, that's too stressful. So it was interesting. It's a really good game. But it seemed like it was a bit too stressful. And so I kind of shied away from Free League games a little bit. I got Coriolis, which I'm still waiting to try to review on that. It's a game that I don't know how I feel about. I picked up Forbidden Lands because so many folks had reviewed it and loved it, and they thought it was amazing. And I got it, like I said, I got it in December at PAX. It was a Christmas present, didn't open up until after Christmas, and I read it straight through in about a couple of days. And I fell in love with the system. I think this is probably the game that I've read from Free League so far that the Year Zero engine just works for the most. Even more than Mutant Year Zero, which is what the system was designed for. But I think the system's evolved enough so it could fit that. And what was interesting is that the way I describe the setting for Forbidden Lands is you take the Silmarillion and you remove even more hope from the background material, and that gets you Forbidden Lands. Like, it just gets dark really quick. It was really kind of fun. Let's see. Serious question for you, Wes. Does your profession's theology conflict with any RPGs that you play? The reason I ask is because I remember the Satanic Panic. Ah, yeah, that's actually a really good question, Eric. In general, no. I tend to stay away from really dark, uh, like brooding games. It was like I had to read Blood and Doom to feel okay reading it or to feel okay talking about it because I didn't want something that conflicted with my general outlook on life. I want to have hope. That's one of the reasons why I shy away from Free League a little bit. I want there to be hope. That's kind of central to my theological core. If folks don't know, my day job as a Baptist pastor. And so no, I don't tend to go out. I can separate fantasy from my reality. And of course, if you know Tolkien, you know that his take on fairy story, on fantasy, is a very important theological aspect for him that is woven into, without being allegorious, he hated allegory, into the concept of Lord of the Rings, which is an important thing for him. So I like the storytelling. Yes, I did get impacted by the Satanic Panic. One of the reasons why I walked away from TTRPGs back in the 90s is because I did convert, and it was kind of still a pressure even in the 90s in the area where I was, and I kind of walked away for a little bit. And by the time I came back, I had neither money nor time to play, and so that's kind of what came in. But that's kind of where I am. I wish I still had all my old books. I had so many. I first and second edition AD&D and both versions of Marvel superheroes. To the Top Secret and Top Secret SI. I had Gamma World first and third edition. I never even knew about the second edition. I had Moldvay Cook and Moldvay Cook Basic Expert. So many modules. The original Castle of Dread and Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. These are things that I've had to pick up as reprints and stuff that I wish I would have had. But it did get me shortly after my conversion. And I don't totally regret walking away from the hobby. At the time, I was kind of in a very bleak place, and I needed to allow myself to be reinvented. I like where I ended up, even though I don't like some of the steps that I took on the way, and that's part of my faith journey and what led me to this church that I've been at. Incidentally, today marks 20 years since I first stepped foot in the pulpit as the pastor of this church, which is also kind of fun. So that's an interesting another take on this. This is kind of my celebration of that anniversary. So thank you guys that you're asking about that. And I do think that there's a lot more understanding of it. I mean, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. But my Monday group, there's three pastors and four people that are no four five people that have gone to seminary, who are across the theological spectrum, much more on the political theological spectrum. They're much more on the progressive side of things. So there's not this cookie cutter. Or you believe this, or you must be in that little box. It's not really true. I'm much more of a more liberal politically and more moderate theologically is where I would put it. Not that I want to talk about that right now. This is not where I am, but this is kind of who I want to be. And yeah, I do think that the world. It's better that the world's becoming much more inclusive and including of other folks, where there's not that pushover. And there is, and Mage, I do understand that there's been this folks have been, we used to be the outcast, and so we're much more inclusive. I've encountered on my channel, you can see that on some of the content in my reviews, when I talk about someone making a shift to deliberately open up to folks because things like language have changed, and folks just zero in on that and attack. And there's still that guarding mentality is like, no, well, no, we're the misfits. You're not allowed in here. So that still exists somewhere inside of our hobby space that we have to deal with. It's just, and it's not even just our hobby space. That's just human beings. That's the way that we act. We go out of our way to only allow people who have the same club membership cards as us be really close to us. And one of the things I like about being in the TTRPG space is that I'm not surrounded by people who are all, holding the same club cards that I am. That they force me to see other people who might have serious disagreements with me on a number of things and to see them and to interact with them as human beings who have dignity, who have worth, and who deserve to live and be happy. And that's something that's really important to me. That's one of the reasons why I like being in this space, is that it gets me out of that bubble where folks can be very myopic sometimes. It's very, very true. It is an ever changing landscape. You're right. So let's talk about what else I'm doing or what else is going on. First off, I've done 2 videos on this game, Easy D6. I have not picked up the. He's got a new book on adventures that is out that I need to pick up. So DM Scotty, if you ever see this, I'm sorry I haven't picked it up yet, which is utterly fantastic. This is really, really. This is my favorite game to do one-shots in, because you can teach it in about 30 seconds, if not less, depending on how familiar people are with role playing, and people will just jump into it. And what I've noticed is the people who have never played role playing games jump into the freewheeling nature of it without even thinking, because there's no baggage about, like, well, wait a minute, what about spell slots, or what about action economy? It's like, nope, you just go. And they do some of the most bizarro things that I've ever seen. It's been a heck of a lot of fun to run one shots with it. And I am running a one shot with that now. So coming up, if you've seen on my channel, or if you're in any of my social feeds, you know that I've been running a series of one-shot fundraisers. This is to replace the roof of the church here. We've raised the money that we need to raise, and now we're trying to raise enough money to pay off the loan early. So yay. And so I've run these one-shot days, and this time I'm running 4 different, I'm not running, but we're having 4 different tables. D&D 5e will be there. It's running a Spelljammer one-shot. I'm actually play testing that right now with my Monday group. It's been kind of fun. And then Mutants and Masterminds is going to be played, so you get to be a superhero. And Savage Worlds, for folks who do like Savage Worlds, is going to be there. It's going to be a noir type situation where you're private detectives investigating dark and dangerous things in alleys, which actually, if I wasn't running a table, I would be playing that one. And then I'm going to be using Easy D6 to do Spring Flinging, which is essentially an Easter egg hunt. And I've now done, this is my 3rd in the series of these one-shots. And it's been kind of interesting because I'm using the same characters going all the way through. So it's kind of like following almost a campaign now. And the way that I designed my one-shots, let me get back to the camera here. I don't even have my Stream Deck set up. Sorry, guys. I did this really, really fast. The way that I've set up my one-shots, and this, again, was an idea from my Monday night group, is that I set them up as Hallmark movies. I did that originally because I had done a 5e one-shot, and I wanted to get my neighbors to play. And I know my wife and I in December will sit down and watch all the cheesy romance novels, or romance movies. I love that Netflix has a cheesy Christmas-themed romance universe that's like a multiverse. So we just sit down and we watch that all throughout December. And I'll talk about ICRPG in a second. And so I created it, and one of my friends went, "Oh, Howlmark!" And so that's what these adventures have become. They're all Howlmark adventures. They're all 3 of them are themed around major holidays. So the first one was for Thanksgiving, the second one was for Valentine's Day, and this one is for Easter egg, Spring Flinging. You're essentially going on an Easter egg hunt. This is probably the least Howlmarkish of all of them, but it's got the same kind of tropes and ridiculousness in it that just fits Easy D6 perfectly. And it should be a ton of fun. So I'm doing that. If you are in the South Jersey or the Philadelphia area and you would like to play, I still have seats available. Let me bring up the thing again. It is $30. You can scan the QR code on the screen. I'll put the link in the description below as well. That's going to be on May 20th. It's 1 to 5 p.m. And seats are limited. Like the Spelljammer and Mutants and Masterminds, they're already half filled. Mine is over half filled. And What Lurks in Shadows, I do know that there are people who are going to be buying tickets very soon, so that might fill up pretty soon too. So if you're in the area and you want to play a one-shot day, it should be a lot of fun. These are some good folks who do goods. Oh, not Howlmark, Howl, HOWLMARK, Howlmark. It's a pun, which is bad. I'm really officially a dad. And then what else do I have going on? Let's see what else is going on. So I talked about my Facebook group. I talked about this. Oh, you wanted to talk about, Dave, you brought up ICRPG. I know, Dave, I wish folks could. There's so many folks who are like either from the area and not anywhere, not here anymore, or who would really like to come and can't, one of these days I'm going to do one that's online, and I'll just do a live stream for it and let people watch. I think I have the tech that I can handle that now. That should be fun. But ICRPG. So this is one because Runehammer lives across the river from me, he's actually, we have mutual friends in common. I've never met him. I don't know anything around. I hear stories. Um, and so I really want to get ICRPG. It was out, again, it was out of print. It was not available for so many months. It's now back. I think there's like 48 books left in their warehouse, but I've blown my money because I've supported 3 Kickstarters. I picked up Fantasy Age and Savage Worlds, and so I have to wait for my funds to replenish. Got some things coming up where I probably can swing doing that without destroying family economics too much, and I'll pick it up as soon as I can. I'm really looking forward to ICRPG because I know people have compared the two a lot. In fact, Runehammer's on the back of Easy D6, and that would be, it's going to be a lot of fun for me to read through that and see what it's like. In fact, if you were watching the Blood and Doom live stream, Runehammer created the character sheet for that game, so his mark is even in that game as well, which is kind of fun, and that's really cool. Other things coming up. So here's my goal for the channel, or my next step goals for the channel. I do want to do a lot more interviews and live streams. In fact, I tried to do this on EV MOOCs, but for some reason they couldn't update my YouTube page with this stream for some reason. So I'm actually using OBS with this today. I would love to be able to afford to get a yearly subscription to that so that I could bring in more people to talk with. I've got Sharp Mountain Games. I want to talk with him. He's got a couple really good modules that he sent me. One involves a dwarvish pickup truck, which has got 4 flying discs as wheels. I mean, this is the type of absurdity that I love. I would really want to sit down and talk with him. We've been talking about doing that for ages. I've got, if you want to look up a good history of some AD&D or some D&D books and even other RPGs, look up Daddy Rolled a 1. If you've ever seen me in my videos wearing a shirt that has a bunch of dice set up like a party fighting a D20 Tarrasque, that is his shirt. He sent that to me. He did some really good deep dives into the history of role-playing games, particularly the early editions of ADD. There's really good story on ODD. I want to have him on for that. So I need to make up time for all this, and I need to have the functionality in order to do it. So no, I do not know if Goodman Games will ever update Tomb of Horrors. Actually, I know they won't update Tomb of Horrors because there's an official 5e of Tomb of Horrors. At least I think there is, so they're never going to be able to do it. I don't know about, and Ravenloft is the Curse of Strahd, so they're not going to ever get a hold of those IPs. It's, unfortunately, buy the PDFs and print them yourself if they're available on drive-through. Because I'm trying not to give WotC any money at this point because they do things like send Pinkerton agents to fans. Yes, Dave, would love to talk about Grimwood City. I love your streams on that, so we'll definitely talk about that. I'm going to have I'm hoping to have Chris Gonnerman on to talk about Basic Fantasy RPG's 4th edition. And so when that gets out, we're going to have him come on. So I do want to be able to afford to do all this stuff and still support Kickstarters, buy new games to review. If people want to send me review copies, that's always a fun thing. I'll try to get you in the queue as much as possible. So ways that you can support that is obviously watching the channel. That will get me ad revenue, which is always kind of fun. The other way to do it is, let me see if I have this on here. I do have a store that has a whole bunch of cool little designs on it. I'm not on this. This is you. And that is the URL to the store there on the screen. One of my favorite is the thing that I'm now using for the motto of my Facebook group and my website is roll some dice. Worlds are waiting, with that big, massive bulk carrying bag of dice that my wife got me from Amazon. for my 50th birthday. She was using them as the centerpieces, and so I collected them all. She's like, "What are you going to do with these?" Like, "Oh, I'm keeping them." So that is one way that you can support. If you buy something from the merch shop, a mug or a T-shirt or whatever, that really helps out. I got some more products that I really want to come out with pretty soon. That would really help. And I do have a Patreon. I don't push it all that much. I only have it set to a cup of coffee purchase right now. And that all adds up. That's kind of how I'm paying for web hosting and things like that. So those are ways that you can support a little bit for the channel. I try to create something that's a good value that can put out. I don't push it too much, but it's a goal of mine to make this a good bit of my hobby space and fun, and to have something really valuable to add to this community that's given me so much. I like to give back. That's I came, not only am I a pastor, I also came through the computer ranks through open source. So that's also part of my ethos. If you're part of the community, you got to give something valuable back. And that's kind of important to me. So if you support, it's all going to go back to the channel and be pushed back out so that we can help out. Anyway, that's what I got going on. Let's see what. Yeah, you confirm that WotC did put out official modules for Ravenloft and Tomb of Horrors. So that's never going to be done in the original Adventures Reincarnated series, which is good. But that's all I got going on. I got a couple of games that I am reading. I got a couple of reviews. I need to review. Let's see what else I have on my thing. I have Worlds Without Number that I want to review, which is a very similar setting style to Numenera. It's a much more of an AD&D feel than something else. Eventually, I had the PDFs for it, but eventually I do want to pick up Swords and Hyperborea to review that game. That is definitely very much a 1E AD&D style game with a really bizarro setting. It's really fun. Only has Descending Armor class. But it's, hey, you should try old things every now and again, and just to see what they were like, even if you don't enjoy them. It's, broaden horizons. It's always kind of fun. Now, Interplanar Crossroads is here. Oh, by the way, for folks who don't know, Interplanar Crossroads has a cool podcast. I've been on one. What was I on? I was on when we were talking about low fantasy. Really cool podcast. I was on talking about low fantasy, and I hijacked it and threw superheroes in there for some reason. It was late, and I was tired. And they're doing, or did you just do Interplanar Crossroads? Did you just do your Western themed episode? Is that already recorded, or is that coming up? So that should be kind of fun. It's a neat conversation piece. They just do it through Discord, really kind of fun, and put it on YouTube later. It's pretty nice. April Arcanum, thank you so much. That's coming. That's for April, and now we're in May. So if you want to go look up Interplanar Crossroads, that would be great. You can also look up. Let's see what we got over. Dave, what is your YouTube channel name, so I can throw that out there and give you a shout out for that. This month is Modern May. Do I want to do Modern May? You also do a terrible time because I have to wake up early the next day. You do it Saturday night. Hey, Dungeon Minister! And if you don't know Dungeon Minister has the story where he tells the tale of his campaign with his kids and his wife. I really want to know how you got your wife to play, because I got my wife to play for one shot and now will not play, even though she was really good at it. So next month, Showdown and the Showdown High Noon, very good. And Modern May, I would really like to do sometime. But Dave, show me what your YouTube channel is, because your streams are really kind of interesting. Oh, you know what? I do have Grimwood Games. Thank you, Dave. You only told it in the chat a couple minutes. So if you want to look up Grimwood Games, you can look that up through YouTube and see some folks. And here's the other thing that I did for. Yeah, you're on Twitch, Dave, but I'm not cool enough for Twitch. I'm old and I have glasses, and Twitch's interface gives me a headache. So I'm on YouTube where the old people are, which would be fun. I preach, dude, no excuses. Yeah, but I set up a recording studio every Sunday too. The other thing that I have been working on that I've been doing the last couple of nights is not only did I read Numenera, my basic fantasy RPG game is not playing this week because the Sixers are in Game 6 against the Celtics, and I have huge basketball fans in my table, so they're like, "We're not playing." I'm like, oh, yeah, I can understand that. And so I was going to try to run maybe a Numenera one shot with folks, and folks just didn't want to do it, or they didn't have time for it. So I did. I spent some time creating characters in Numenera. If you've never done a Cypher System character, it's really kind of cool. And this is all part of my review, but it's a lot of fun because your character is not a class; it's a type, and then you have the descriptor and their focus. And that sentence saying is, I am an adjective, noun, who verbs is your character. And you build your stat pools and your abilities and your skills all from that. And it's very open ended. I created a character that was a type called a jack, which is like literally a jack of all trades. And it said, you are trained in 3 skills of your choice. I'm like, oh, where are the skills? And I kept looking through the Numenera book, and I'm like, well, there's no official skill list. I'm like, yeah, here's a example set, just make up ones that you want to do, and if that ever comes up in a game, you're skilled at that. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. So Monty Cook is really interesting because there's this crunch to the system. You do have to do math, but it's always only adding or subtracting from a 1 to 20. And so that's kind of easy, and you're just kind of like, okay, well, this is -1, this is -2, this is -1, and there's a +1, so this is my final number. So that's all the crunch. So there's crunch to it. That's where it is. But then there's this freewheeling nature to it that you can design your own skills. So they say, hey, if you want to create your own ability in the generic Cypher system, here's how you do it, and this is how you fit it into your setting. There's a lot of freedom in that, which I really like. If you know anything about me, you know how much I love to be involved in rolling the dice. And the fact that I am excited to play Monty Cook games where the GM does not roll dice, that should tell you something about the game, which is kind of fun. And that's what I got going on. And I am over. I was only going to go 30 minutes, and I am at 40 minutes. So I thank you all for taking some time out of your Thursday afternoon to say hello and to watch and to see what's going on. Eric, thank you for asking your question about like how I deal with the faith reality and the game reality and dealing with stuff. I am a pastor who is one of the things I want to put on a Patreon thing is to share with you all the gods I've made in the pantheon. But I figure if Tolkien can do it, I can do it. Not that I'm comparing myself to Tolkien. It's just that if he did it, I'm gonna just work in that wake there. So that's kind of fun. So great questions. Thank you so much for playing, and I really had a great time. Hopefully, I'll have things that I can share. Regularly on Thursdays, or just sit down and talk about what's going on, and maybe share what's going on in some of my games. Because I had a character death my last Castles and Crusades session. That was my first one, and that was an interesting time. So thanks all for sharing. Love to see you. If you want to join the Facebook group, I'll put the link in the description below when I am off of here. If you want to leave comments and chat, subscribe, and do all those cool, wonderful things, I would love to have you. And really, have a great day. And from my perspective, this is a blessing to you. God bless you all. If you are not of a faith persuasion, take it just to understand that I wish you well, joy, peace, and life. Have a great afternoon. Talk to you later.